Hello, friends, and welcome to a special recording that I'm making today with one of my long-term clients, Sarah Bull. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
So, in very broad terms today, Sarah offered her input to talk about coaching, what coaching's about, what kind of impact it's had on her, what kind of coaching you can expect specifically with me and from SFC, and how that fits into her daily life now. Before we start, I would like to just give a definition of coaching that comes from the ICF, the gold standard in coaching, the International Coaching Federation. So the ICF defines coaching as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. The process of coaching often unlocks previously untapped sources of imagination, productivity, and leadership. So that's their definition there. And I love that they've mentioned here untapped sources of imagination, productivity, and leadership, which is kind of against the backdrop of how I organize my coaching practice, which is around science, psychology, and story or magic or luck or whatever you want to call it, essence. So like consensus reality, dreaming and planning, and also the essence. So Sarah's been with me for quite some time now, and I've watched her make really terrific changes and adjustments in her life, and that has been facilitated by the coaching process, according to her. So I'd like to start, Sarah, by asking you, how would you describe coaching? I mean, I think that's a pretty good definition, but how would you describe it?
Yeah, I was definitely nodding along as I heard you read that definition. And I have never studied coaching, but I've been coached a lot. And when I talk to other people who maybe haven't been coached so much to try to explain what's involved, I often talk about how it's a lot of kind of bringing things that you've already got inside of you out. So it's not someone telling you what to do, but kind of facilitating that introspection and exploration to come up with answers that you wouldn't have come up with otherwise. So,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. Introspection and exploration. Love those words. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself now, where you are now in your life and in your work and your professional life. It's May 2024.
Yep. So in May 2024, well, first of all, I'm in Japan, just outside of Tokyo. My work situation is that I am on the board of a relatively small company, about 30 people. My role there is Chief Relationships Officer, which means that I'm responsible for internal relationships like HR and also external relationships like collaboration with chambers of commerce and industry organizations, clients, etc. And I'm also a mum. My daughter's 14, which is obviously a big part of my life as well.
Great. So I really like that you mentioned those two things together there. It kind of gives us quite a broad picture of your life. So you're an HR professional in a chief relationships CRO role currently, managing external and internal relationships. wind back a bit now. So I want to ask you about your relationship with me and coaching, and how long have you been working with me or working with coaching?
So I started working with you in February 2017 when you first offered FNJ, your product. So that means that we're in our 8th year
Hmm.
of this coaching relationship.
FNJ was what?
February is the new January.
Mm-hmm.
And in February, and when you say what was it, it changed, right? It had a few different iterations. So at the very beginning, at least I remember it as being a kind of package of coaching hours.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
And
right.
then, yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of changed into packages that included different elements as well as that core offering of coaching hours.
Mm. So in that first year of working with SFC, Sarah Furuya Coaching, what happened in that first year? And also, we met first at the 2016 FEW for Empowering Women Professional Networking Organizations Career Strategy Seminar, where I believe I was the MC that year. So I opened and closed, and we met for the first time there.
That's
And
right.
then you joined up with me on the February FNJ. February is the new January, which was my kind of biggest brand until last year. What was it that kind of made you decide to put your hand up in that first year? And then the second part to that question is, what happened in the first year?
Okay, so I think that part of what I might need to talk about to frame that is where I was at that time.
Mhm.
So when I met you in 2016 and where I was in 2017 when we started working together was that I was a freelance legal translator, and I was uh, fine and also like trying to build something more than the straightforward business of translating legal documents. And so, in oh, and also in the time between when we met at the Career Strategies Seminar and when I started working with you, my dad passed away. So that was also kind of a seminal moment, I think, new era for me. Where I was when we started working together in 2017, I was working as a freelance translator, very much sort of on my own. And I think that a big reason why I decided to make that investment in coaching was because I wanted to puzzle through some things with somebody. And I think that I felt comfortable working with Sarah Furuya Coaching because I had met you at the CSS and we had connected on Facebook and there had been some interaction in that maybe half a year or so. I felt like I had a sense of who you were and
Mm.
how we might be able to. I didn't know totally what I was getting in for at all, but I had a sense that that having somebody like you in my corner to puzzle through some things would be really valuable.
Mm.
And I was right.
So, in terms of working with Sarah Furuya Coaching and working with me, what was it that kind of what was the trust like, um and no factor that made you go, oh yes, from Facebook I see this, ah yes, from the from the career strategy seminar I see this? What was it that particularly, because there was plenty of coaches in that room at that time and plenty of coaches running workshops, what was the specific thing that attracted you to Sarah Furuya Coaching?
Hmm. Interesting to think back on what specifically attracted me because we've been through a lot of
I know. We
a lot
really
of
have. We
yeah.
really have, which is, I'm going to ask you about that.
Yeah, we've been through a lot since. But I do think that there was a sense of, I'm going to say trust, but maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more as well, because I didn't go in blindly trusting you with everything from the very beginning. But I had a sense that I would probably be able to trust you. And I think that that came from something about the straightforward way of communicating that you had. Another theme that keeps coming up, I think, is that I don't like dry and boring. And I don't think anybody has probably ever described you as dry or boring. So I think that there was something there, some element of like interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I could learn a lot, I think. Yeah, was definitely part of it. And for me personally, um, the one-on-one offering was key at that time in my life, I think. It's still key. Maybe I was going to say in some ways even more so, but actually, no, it's just always been key for maybe different reasons. Um, I am also someone who enjoys group coaching, but one-on-one coaching is just extremely valuable for me as I navigate life.
I want to ask you again about that first. It's straightforward and not dry and boring. And I know something. How could you tell? Because I know that I'm quite the performer. How could you tell that my performance was not performative?
I think some of it is just gut
Okay.
instinct, like a feeling of feeling comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I didn't see any moments of like the mask slipping, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it felt very through and through, like genuine, right? Not an artifice. Um, yeah, and and that was true in the various places that I saw you show up.
Yeah. Yeah. The mask slips, but not in that regard.
Well, that was a whole later chapter.
For sure. For sure. So 8 years is a long time to be coaching with somebody. Does it even work? How does it work? Why are you still coaching? I mean, I want to be very clear here at SFC, we are not healers, right? That I do not say I can heal you or any of that good stuff. Some people report that coaching sometimes helps them to heal parts of themselves that might need a bit of help. But that I want to be really clear about that. I'm not here to cure or anything like that. So 8 years, Sarah, does it even work? And how does it work?
It definitely works. I think that the short answer to that would be we're not coaching around the same questions and problems and challenges that we were 8 years ago. And I would add that the things that we're coaching around now are more interesting problems, more interesting questions and challenges. So, yes, it definitely works. But I mean, to me, it feels like um, ludicrous that you would fix all of your problems in even a few years of coaching, right? It's an ongoing thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I can also see why for some people it's something that they want that extra level of support for a certain season in their life. But for me, it's an integral, ongoing piece of support that I like to have in my life.
Hmm. You have said that you would like everyone to get coaching, that you're a real evangelist for coaching. So on the back of that, why would that be? What would you say to people? What kinds of people would benefit from coaching? Because it's not just about problems either, is it? It's kind of enhancing. I know you use the word juice a lot as well.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of directing you towards something here. But why are you an evangelist for coaching?
Well, I think the most basic reason why I'm an evangelist for coaching is because I've experienced the benefits of coaching so clearly and directly in my own life. I do think everybody could benefit from coaching if they showed up willing to be coached. And so, as far as what you can get out of it, then yes, you're right. It's not just about problems, and it does help me get a lot more juice out of life. For me, it feels like a shortcut.
Mm.
So something that perhaps, maybe, eventually, I could have gotten to an answer, on that thing by myself. I feel like I could get there in like one session sometimes, or even just part of one session when you and I are working together, because you're bringing so much skill as far as tools, as far as keeping us on track. Yeah, it feels like a shortcut.
Could you describe a typical session? I know you used to start off with 1 hour sessions, then you kind of graduated to 90-minute sessions. These days, you always book a 2 hour session.
Yeah. I think it would be difficult to describe a typical session because the sessions that we have vary quite a bit depending on what is going on and what I want to be coached around.
Yeah.
But I think that, yes, the sessions have got longer, and I think that that relates back to what I was talking about with more interesting problems, more juice. Like some of the things that we started out coaching about felt more challenging at the time, um, but we actually got through them quite quickly. I think compared with some of the things that we're coaching around now, I feel like I really want to dig in for that 2 hours.
Mhm.
And so, but it does feel quite different to me. Um, mm, Almost every session feels quite different to me, actually.
It most certainly does. And
Yep.
in terms of content, yes, but in terms of structure, I'm always following a similar
Yes.
structure. Do you know how you would describe an SFC, the structure of an SFC? Because I never know what content's going to drop in. You might have sent me an email before to alert me to something you really want to do. So then I can kind of mentally prepare and dream it all up and things like that. But I always have a kind of, it's not obvious because I'm a seasoned coach, but there's a flow.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring up that flow that's in place, because I think because of your skill, I am not necessarily paying attention. Like it's not even on my radar. I kind of have the luxury of not monitoring that side. How is this being facilitated? Where is it going? The things that would, um, I guess, stand out as like common threads across different coaching sessions would be that I think that you always or almost always ask at the beginning of the session how I would like you to show up,
Mm,
right?
mhm,
Which I have very much appreciated at some time. So, an example of something I might request is like, not let me off the hook.
mhm.
Sometimes, or I'd be like, I'm actually feeling quite fragile today, and I think I really need you to listen for a while I just vent. And I appreciate that opportunity to ask for what I need at
Mm.
the session. And I think that another common thread between all the different sessions would be um, a, a few moments at the end to kind of take stock of, okay, what was it out of today's session that is really landing for you? What are you going to take away from this session to kind of reflect before leaving that coaching space?
I've noticed that one difference between me and between SFC and other coaches is that I don't always force somebody to make a to-do list or to get out there what they're going to do next. And I don't feel sometimes I might say, okay, next step. But I've never felt that. And it's something that, in a kind of ICF world, or in a kind of, if somebody was assessing me, they might pick me up on that. But I don't, I like to kind of leave that open to people. Sometimes we have a next step, and we do, and we've got very concrete steps out, like creating meeting some things, or where you need to go to do the paperwork that you need to do, or something like that, and timelines. But very often I just leave that very open. How is that for you?
Yeah, I think that that also feels like it ties back to what we're coaching around.
Right.
So when we have been coaching around those kinds of very concrete to-dos, right? Then I feel like I have left sessions with a very concrete next step or a next few steps. So in that case, I think that that was very valuable.
Mm.
And then a lot of the time these days, the next step is not the critical piece necessarily, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not the gold, you know, or the gemstone that I need to be sure that I walk away with. Like I can kind of figure that bit out on my own, or it's a little note and it's kind of not worthy of that positioning in
Mm.
some way. And there's actually something deeper, juicier, richer that is the real treasure from that session.
Huh. The real treasure from the session is juicier and deeper than the next thing on the to-do list sometimes.
Yeah, quite often.
Quite
Yeah.
often. Yeah. I think I work in quite a trusting way with my clients in that regard as well. I hope I don't infantilize my clients in that way. And when we in the group sessions, I always used to have a saying, do you remember it? You're the boss of the whatever.
Yes. Yep.
How did that work? I mean, that landed extremely well for you, but what did you learn from that? I think this is something that we've worked upon as well, is kind of permission, and noticing that, like for me, that's kind of a comedy way in a group to allow people to seek less permission for things, um, but also holding that knowledge that people sometimes need a bit of reassurance or validation if they're a bit insecure, which is fine. I'm not a coach who's like, well, they're insecure. I'm a coach who like sees that, but also wants to create some accountability for people around that in themselves. How is that for you? What have you learned about permission along the way? Not learned, sorry, but like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I do.
what's emerged for you about permission?
Yeah, we've spoken about this before, and permission is a really interesting one for me because I think of it as a muscle. And
Mm.
so even if in the beginning, um, I might have been a bit uh, hooked on, oh, but these were the instructions, and am I allowed to color outside the lines, and and every time that you would make a comment, and I think of those comments as quite playful, a
What
little
kind
bit,
of comments,
uh,
Sarah?
what you were saying before about the, like, well, you're the boss of the, and that might be something like, you're the boss of the words, you're the boss of the, I'm trying to
Post-it
think.
notes.
Yeah, the post-it notes, right? That's a
Yeah.
good one. Um, and so even though logically that, the first time that I hear you say, no, it doesn't have to be three post-it notes. You're the boss of the post-it notes. If you decide that you want two or four, like, that's fine. Um, that I can get it logically, and conceptually, and I can still have that inclination to be like, but she said three and I want four, for a while. It's like a muscle that needs to become accustomed, to that, it's not a hard and fast rule. And I do feel like that's one of the things that I really built that muscle over the years, but it wasn't instant. And then I do notice that is, it feels like a muscle and a skill that comes up more often than I would have even thought before, where I'll notice in different settings, like, people saying, oh, but, and it's fine, we don't have to worry about that. In fact, when I was on holiday with my mum and my sister and the rest of our family in Fiji a couple of years ago, they started parroting back to me, yes, we know, Sarah, we're grown ass women and we can do whatever we want. And so I feel like it's been very, like, uh freeing and fun to get out of that, like, coloring in the lines mindset.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously I still have that as well. I think we all do, but I think in really, and I also want to say that I want to honor my friend Angeli, who she was the one who posted that lyric, and that lyric actually is a singer in America, who has that. Um, and I don't have that off the top of my head, but I'll find out who it is. And I love it. You're a grown ass woman and you can do whatever you want. And it's like, oh, that's great for the most people who aren't kind of super entitled. It's like, just take the amount of entitlement that you're entitled to. You really can, like, the great example for me is when I run the clothes swaps and I go, oh, small's over there, medium's there, large is there. I've got extra large. Put it in large. And and it's such a sweet thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now I start the clothes swap off by saying, if you can't find a place for your clothes, just choose a place. If you need permission, come and ask me.
I think you've hit on something really important there, because I do think that Sarah Furuya coaching creates a lot of safe spaces to do that kind of thing. So I think that Sarah Furuya coaching is one of the places where I learned to ask for things in that way of, like, I can ask, they might say no, that's okay, right? And to be honest with you, I think it would have been a bit scary to test out that skill in some other environments, because maybe those people wouldn't have been so okay with just saying no, and then it might have become a more uncomfortable experience.
I love that you have hit on that, Sarah. I can ask, they can refuse, and that's okay. And that muscle building and having a safe space in which to do that. And I think that one of the great things that coaching has given me, and what I'm hearing from you as well, and especially in Sarah Furuya coaching, is, yeah, I even had another client who said exactly the same thing. Their biggest takeaway from their 2 engagements was, I can ask, they can refuse, and that's okay. Because what can happen And this is one of the great things about coaching. This isn't only about this specific situation, it's about many other situations. And the deeper you go, the more subtle and nuanced these little things are. Like my own coach called me out on, it sounds like you're really uncomfortable saying no. I'm like, oh no, really? You need to point me towards that, because I got really good at saying no. But actually, when it came down to some other more crunchy stuff, I was really struggling, but I didn't know. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can ask, they can refuse, and that's okay. When you don't have that system in play, and many other coaching systems, it can become like, they put upon me. How dare they ask me that? They know I can't do this. And it becomes this really unpleasant kind of toxic environment there. Or you feel like, oh, I can't ask them that because they're so busy. Then it's like, but you can ask and they can refuse. So if you start to build this muscle of how to do that, I know you're really busy. Is there any possibility that you can do this? And they say no. And you've created that system, that kind of edge where refusal is actually a fine thing, right? In a really nice way, in a
Yep.
really
Yep.
kind of direct and professional, or direct and caring and non-performative way, then all of that's okay.
Yes. Yeah. And the more that that becomes the norm, the more that we can all ask, and the more that we can all say no if we want to, right? Or
Oh,
only say
yes.
yes if we want to,
Yeah.
right? And so it all becomes a much healthier and more pleasant place to be.
Healthier and more pleasant. All right. So I'd like to move on to just hitting on some more specific things about coaching, and specifically coaching with SFC. So science, psychology, and story. Let's head into the science. Over the past 8 years, I've seen you sometimes write that your investment in coaching has paid you back over and over again. So what you've got from it is way, way more in actual, on paper, spreadsheet value than what you've invested. Can you just say more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really do mean that in the most cut and dry sense of the
What, like
word.
you could show us a spreadsheet with
I,
those actual
I
figures on
Yeah,
year on year?
exactly. I could
Okay.
show the total of money that I have paid to Sarah Furuya Coaching and the total of the money that I have received because of things that we coached around.
Okay.
And the money that I've received would be a bigger amount for sure. That's just very straightforward by a lot. Um, and I think that the most direct explanation of that would be that we coached around me negotiating my compensation. Let's also remember that when I started working with you, I was a freelance legal translator, and now I'm on the board of a company. So yes, I mean it in a very straightforward, direct way. So I'm not in any way saying if you sign up for coaching, you'll immediately get your money back.
No.
Exactly, right? It
No.
wasn't immediate. There was a lot of work and effort and coaching that went into it, but also in very cut and dry, direct terms, I have benefited financially more than I have paid out financially.
Amazing. So you not so did coaching help you to say yes to the board role?
Yes, definitely.
Why were you hesitating to ask for a raise?
There was a
I
lot.
mean, this is a while ago. This is some years ago. This is
Oh, yeah, this is a
pre-COVID.
very, very long time
Yeah,
ago, and I'm trying to even remember. There were so many twists and turns in there.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I'm also trying to think of what I can comfortably and openly
Yes. Yeah.
talk about. Um, mm,
Well, let me try and frame it in a very, very broad way. Was you had made one offer to them, and then you said to me, "But I've already said about the offer." This is a bit like you're the boss of the offers, right? I've already made the offer, and I said, "Why don't you go back?" Something like this. Obviously, in coaching, I wouldn't couch it like this. It would be something different.
yeah,
But
yeah,
why don't you go back and tell them you made a mistake and you decided something different? And you were like, "Oh yeah."
yeah.
Something
Actually,
along those lines, right? I don't know if it was as cut and dry as that, but and it takes a lot, to be fair, it takes a lot of discussion and trust between the coach and myself to get to coachee and myself to get to that point. But it was along those lines, I think.
now that you've reminded me of that, then I remember more clearly that that was at least one chapter that happened. And yes, that was a surprisingly simple and not simple kind of well, an edge that got crossed, I think, of like, but before I said this, and now I want to say something else, and how do I navigate that? And I think that I wasn't even kind of aware that that was an available option in the beginning, but also how to do that. Because I think there are skilled ways of doing that and unskilled ways of doing that. So we definitely coached around that as well. Um, Another chapter that I remember when I was going to make some kind of ask involved a lot of very practical steps around, like, okay, first gather your data, you know, get really clear in yourself, have that data available, organized, even if you don't share it. And that proved to be incredibly instrumental.
Mm.
I think, if I remember correctly, perhaps I didn't share the data in the beginning, and I thought that it had just been for my own benefit. And then in the next stage of negotiations, I was called on to basically back up what I had said. And instead of that sending me into a panic, it was like,
Yeah,
oh, yes, here you go, you know.
yeah.
So, but I do think that just knowing that I had that for myself actually made a huge difference in the first negotiation, discussion, ask,
Ready
conversation.
to be ready to be ready,
Yep.
as one of our fellow coachees says.
Yes.
So that reminds me of in the writing workshops and writing coaching that I do as well, where a lot of the stuff you write will never be seen, but it's
Mm-hmm.
incredibly important to the output that does get seen in the end.
Yes.
That's so interesting to say that to and I also want to mention here that coaches, and especially me, like data collection is not my strong suit. And this is where being a coach does not mean do as I say, not as I do. It does not mean that I lead by example, actually. The example that I probably lead by is one of what you said, like that integrity piece and non-performance. But also being a performer. But is um what we have to do, we have to have a very broad knowledge of what's happening in the world, in the corporate world, in the everyday world, in the world of people who are not enabled in their lives, in the world of people who are parents, in the world of gender disparity in the world, of everything, right? And all of that, we have to have a very keen awareness, if not a deep knowledge of these things. So when I hear you saying that to me, oh, you made me, well, no, you suggested that I gather data, and then I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this. I think, oh, interesting. That's not my strong suit. And yet I can offer it. And I think that's a really key thing about coaching. A good coach knows that they're not there to lead by example, that they're not there to do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell me more about what that means to you, especially around SFC? Because I have a very strong kind of personality types.
Yeah, so I don't think that I look to you for that. You know, that sense of like, oh, Sarah Furuya is doing this thing, and therefore I should also do this thing. I mean, you
Thank
and I,
God.
well, our lives are very different. We're very different people, but you have a depth of knowledge and a breadth of skill set that is very deliberately honed and cultivated over a long period of time. That means that, of course, you have insight into things that can help me. And so when what's the phrasing that you use about an offer, invitation?
Proposal. Oh, everything is an offer, an invitation, or a proposal.
Right. Okay. So that's the spirit in which I take it. I don't take it as an assignment, right? It's an offer, a proposal, an invitation, and then we consider it quite often together in that coaching environment, and then action is taken. Do you know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah.
looking at you to model something for me so that I can copy that. No, like we're collaborating and, like figuring things out together. You know, I'm bringing a lot of information about my situation. You're bringing your skills and your, like, attention, to the thing, and together we coach around something to come up with something that then I go and implement because it's my life, right?
I want to now talk about being skilled and unskilled, and what that means to you, and how you observe it from a coaching lens, and how you see it out in the world. Because you've just described something very skilled there. And I'm going to ask you this later, but it's about being a skilled coachee as well.
Okay, so for me, being like unskilled and skilled has been a very valuable terminology, I feel like, to get clear around. I feel like before I had that terminology or that lens to look at things through, then maybe there was almost like a attribution error going on sometimes. So that person is mean, or that person is ignorant, or that person is rude, or those kind of things. And that those things might be true, but a lot of the time now what I notice is, ah, like that person or me myself, like I am unskilled around this thing, and then it feels very doable to skill up. It doesn't feel like a fundamental flaw in somebody's character or something like that. It just feels like, oh, okay, there's a skill gap there. Something is unknown or underdeveloped or something like that. And then is that something that gets that goes from unskilled to skilled or not, and we make decisions based on that. And yes, I do notice it. I think everybody has their um, not it's not pet peeves, but things that they particularly pay attention to or notice a lot. So an example for me would be, I think that I will really notice if somebody is skilled or unskilled around listening.
Pardon? I'm joking. See what I did there?
Yeah, I did see. um, yeah, I think that's a big one. For me, it feels like an unskilled, skilled lens is a very useful lens to use to pay attention to yourself and to other people.
Brilliant. So let's pivot into psychology then. So we've touched a little bit on the science there. And before we pivot into the psychology, I just want to honor that over the last 8 years in the science area, that you have really built wealth for yourself. You have built systems to support you and your family. You have basically, you had a realization that you had completely decluttered your house. Now, I know you have other coaches in place for that. You're a coach we've both worked with and also a declutter coach, because you're really committed to this whole process and know that you need, I think you're just humble enough to know you need help, and also you have the resources and you choose the people who you can be resourced by and that are within your means. So I want to really honor that on the science end of business, you have created wealth, clarity, and just tidiness around yourself. What was it you said to me the other week about your attic?
Yeah, that was amazing. I just had a realization. I think I texted you and I was like, I think I'm done. I think I finished.
How many
Did
years?
all the time that we've
All the
been
years.
working together, right? And before that, it was a very interesting feeling to realize that that tipping point had been reached. Yeah, it was kind of amazing.
And I also came round, and this is another little element of my coaching is with SFC coaching, is that I actually came round and did a wardrobe beautification program with you as well, didn't I? That's
Yeah.
not for general consumption yet. I've done it for 2 people and it's life-changing. Absolutely brilliant. What was that like? We did go over time a little bit. That's very much, but that was part of the kind of process of me learning how to better do it. But how was that for you?
It was brilliant, and I think that maybe I think I told you this, but for the very first time in my life, I did a proper seasonal flip of my wardrobe
Oh.
this spring because I could, because of the wardrobe edit that we did, and it was very straightforward. And also, I think the last clothes swap, I didn't have anything of my own to take. It was all my husband's and my daughter's items because of that wardrobe edit that we had done.
But how many bags came out of that wardrobe edit?
It was huge. It was huge. Yeah, the clothes swap before that
Yeah.
was a lot of bags for the clothes swap and also bags for the rubbish.
I want
Yeah,
to say thank you very much. Yeah, we bagged up stuff for the rubbish as well, didn't we? And that's quite
yeah,
brave. I think throwing clothes away is quite brave of people. But yeah, you can't take horrible clothes, not horrible, but like nasty clothes
yeah.
to a swap. Yeah, thank you for letting me do that with you. It was such a great experience, and it's something I will be adding into my portfolio of things in the future. But right now, I'm not in, to coin a phrase, a lean in mode. I'm in a lean out mode right now.
Oh, well,
Um,
thank you for coming and doing it with me,
oh, no,
because it was fun. We had a lot of fun, but it was also like, it was
work,
work.
work,
Yeah.
physical work.
Yeah, it was physical work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also, I don't know, I think sometimes you just need another person to help you break the back of something like that. And you do it once. And that's the thing I ask is like, is it sustainable? Was it sustainable for you?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I said I could do that seasonal swap so easily for the first time ever.
This reminds me of all coaching, actually. It's like you do this thing, but then it has a knock-on effect over here, but then it creates something else over here, and then things become more sustainable if you're kind of in it. So
Yes.
we've pivoted. I wanted to pivot into psychology there, but one of the things I'm becoming more and more authentic about now is the fact that I have ADHD. Was pinging off just before we came on the phone together. Sarah's very supportive of this. And so I need to take a breath and slow down a bit. But as soon as I say, let's pivot, a thought goes, and you've forgotten this thing. But it also doesn't mean I'm very interested to know how people with different neurodiversities and neurodivergence and neurotypical people also are able to really lean into their skills for success now. And I'm doing that and I love it so much. So, Sarah, I'm pivoting into the psychology area now. So we were talking about being skilled and unskilled. And one of the things that I bring to all my groups and to my one-to-ones is tools and techniques and psychometric testing and things like that. So I wanted to ask you very specifically in the psychology area, what tools do you remember have skilled you up? They've probably become quite integral to you now, but I think we've done personality styles, we've done where you were like, oh, I'm more extroverted than I thought. And we've done all kinds of things, drama triangle, toxins. What else have we done? We've done all kinds of things. I was just thinking, attachment styles, all these kinds of things have come into the fore. Do you want to tell me a bit about some of the things that have really had an impact on you and what SFC brings to the table in this regard?
Yeah, so as you say, I think that a lot of the tools and concepts or frameworks that we've worked with have become so integrated that it's kind of like, oh, hang on, like I have to think about it because it is so like internalized. But as you mentioned some of the things, then I think ones that particularly resonate for me are the attachment style thing has actually been quite huge, recognizing how my attachment style reverberates into all different areas of my life, and it really, really does. And drama triangle for sure. I feel like I have, it's almost like those the magnets that like that push away from one another. I feel like I can feel a drama triangle on the horizon, and I'm like, whoop, no, we're not going there, which I don't think was the case at all in the beginning when we started working together. I don't think I had a particular appetite for drama triangles, but I just think it's very normal to get drawn into drama triangles until you learn to recognize them and learn to build that skill
Mhm.
to avert.
Can you just very quickly tell us what a drama triangle is? It's by Karpman, by the way, for anybody who wants to look it up. The Wikipedia page is excellent. But Sarah, can you?
Yeah, so an example, I mean, I'm going to say this in real layman's terms, and I also
Please.
feel like I'm a little bit rusty because, as I say, I see a drama triangle on the distant horizon and I quickly change course.
Which
But
is frankly kind of annoying because, like, if I'm trying to pull you into one for my own dramatic feed, I can feel you pushing me out of it, and it's very annoying, and I'm very annoyed at my own skills.
Right. So a drama triangle, a simple example that I think of is like if somebody starts to gossip about somebody else, or somebody starts to like kind of, stir up some drama, right? So like a little bit of digging at somebody, what do you think? That kind of thing. And um I have no interest. It's basically my take on that. I'm
Mhm,
interested in juicy conversations, but I'm not interested in that kind of playing people off one another or
mhm.
something like that. If you have a problem with this other person, like person A has a problem with person B, figure it out between person A and person B. Don't bring me into that.
Yeah, so that's an example of putting somebody in a villain position,
Yeah,
asking you to be a rescuer, to jump in and rescue with you. And then the other position is the victim, right? So they're the
yeah,
victim. They want to pull you in as a rescuer to start to together have a go at a villain. It happens in all kinds of areas as well, doesn't it? It can happen in
yeah.
all kinds of
And
things. Yeah.
now that you say that, it's coming back to me more of that whole, I think, perhaps in the beginning of our coaching journey, there was more of me relaying stories where I don't think I would have told stories where I cast myself in the villain position, but I'm pretty sure I told you stories where I cast myself in the rescuer position or the victim position.
Yeah.
And now that you say that, I realize that that doesn't come up
No,
anymore.
no.
I can't remember a time when that's come up recently. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. All it would take would be to say something like that feels like a drama triangle.
Right.
And then it's like
Yeah.
when you step outside, you can become much more kind of creative around how to approach it. And that approach might be, oh, yeah, that's right. That person, I don't want to be in contact with that person anymore. Or it might be, I need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Or it might be, I'm just going to let that lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Anything else? What, I mean, I have a whole suite of tools and again, yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Well, at different times, the 9 box plan, is that what it's called? That's been really key.
Yeah.
When there have been times where I felt like I had 5 gazillion things that I was trying to prioritize, and then just having to get very clear
Hmm.
on what was actually what I wanted to prioritize. So the 9 box chart is one. What that communication tool, I don't know what any of these things are called, but I can remember where we applied them, where we talked about like the communication style of like I'm okay, you're okay.
Transactional analysis, that's called. Yeah.
There you go, right?
Hmm.
That was one of the very first things I think that we coached around,
Yeah.
and that actually had massive flow-on effects for me. And so yeah, that was a really key tool as well. Let's see what else. I feel like I don't know if this is yeah, I think this is maybe one of your tools, the high dreaming and the
Yeah.
low dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that has also been really clarifying and
Hmm.
also juicy.
Yeah, that's an ORSC and a systems coaching tool. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there are probably like
Oh,
dozens more, but
loads.
in
Yeah.
our 8th year of coaching, we've cycled through a
Yeah.
lot of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also like the story, like yeah, like the hero's journey type kind of, analysis, those radical reframes that we've done where you changing the question, looking at things through different lenses. Yeah, I like them all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to say, isn't it? Because, yeah, like you said, after a while, it just becomes part of your everyday life. But I do remember you saying once, and this doesn't give anything or anybody away. Um, you said you'd look back on an old diary once and you were like, oh my God, can you just say something about this?
Yeah, that was actually really. a visceral like moment for me. So I have the ritual of writing morning pages most mornings, and even though the instructions for morning pages are that you're never supposed to go back and look, as we've already discussed, I'm the boss of my own morning pages, and so um, occasionally I do go back and look. And this particular time, I had gone back and looked at some morning pages from a few years beforehand, I think, and I found it quite um,
Excruciating?
excruciating. I was going to say off-putting, but that wasn't strong enough. It was excruciating. And I think that like I came into a coaching session, I think, and I was like, oh, I went back and looked at some of my old morning pages and it was awful. I did not like that person. I was so whiny and blamey and, just whinging about everything. And I'm like, I don't like that version of myself. And this is where you turned around and you really fiercely said to me, like, well, I love her. And I was like, what? But then, I'm sure we went into a lot more in the
Yeah.
coaching there, but around that, like, okay, she was complaining and whatever, but she was also trying really
So hard.
hard and had so much kind of like hope and
Oh,
aspiration. And so it enabled me to see that version of myself through a very different lens, a much more compassionate lens, and also to kind of clock and recognize the progress and
yeah.
trajectory from that point on.
Yeah, I love that hope, aspiration. She had a bit of moxie as well. She really was trying so hard,
So hard. Yeah.
so hard. She was great though. I mean, yeah, right. She was the one who was like, I need some coaching.
Exactly, right? She was showing up and doing
Yeah,
her
she was
morning
doing
pages, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And also I think sometimes like hope and aspiration can sound a little bit I don't know, they can once you've started coaching or once you've become more in control of your life and things like that, hope and aspiration can sound a bit weak or wet,
Mm.
but they're not. And if you
No.
lose and if you can tune into those again, like that part of yourself, it's another thing I love in systems coaching is the adaptation of parts work, which is all
Mhm.
about selves. If you can bring those selves to the table every now and then, it's lovely as well, isn't it?
Yep.
And also when you describe that, then that's another great thing about coaching is if you've got your timing right and you're a seasoned coach, you can break a spell.
Yes.
And I feel, or you can cast a spell. And I feel like that's what happened there. And I was like, well, I love her. You probably weren't expecting me, I think
Absolutely
she's
not.
really improved. Oh, no, like I love her. It kind of breaks the spell, right?
Yes,
And it opens
absolutely.
up the way for creativity. So, on the topic of spells, I would now again like to pivot into the third part of the SFC kind of elements that I always draw together, which is the essence, what we call in systems coaching, the essence, but also I say it's like the magic, the supernatural, the story. What kind of what how have you had a more access that it's a wordless place, right? As soon as you give words to it, we're in the dreaming. So it's hard to kind of talk about metaphor, symbolism and so on, but like what kind of have you had any magical expanse in this
So
coaching?
much magic.
And it sounds really, it's very practical though. It's practical.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So this is the thing. It is very hard to articulate I think, and I think that it's also kind of tempting to minimize some of
Of
these
course.
magical things, right?
Mhm.
Because um, yeah, like sometimes when you put words to them, they sound a
Trite.
bit, yeah, a bit trite or a bit naff or something like
Yeah.
that, but they're really not. And it's
Yeah. Can I just interrupt here? Because I just had a massive kind of in if we just look at the men in our lives and let's just go to some really kind of manly activities. Well, we might call it instinct. Or I know that some of the kind of organizations that amass together, like ritual organizations, I won't mention the name, but I think you can know what I mean. They have uniforms and
yeah,
rituals and onboarding that's unusual.
yeah.
They have massive spells and magic and stuff like that. So whatever our version of that is, I have absolutely no, that's not true at all. Let me reframe that. Okay. This is the integrity piece in the Sarah Furuya coaching sphere. Um, I do still hesitate to talk about this because I still want to be seen as like, professional and corporate and all this. And I need to do it in a way that's palatable for people. But I'm abandoning that with gay abandon at the moment, little by little. So I just want to open that up for you now, Sarah. I'll take on the naff wild witch part of it, and you can talk about how the essence and the access to more and more Momo magic is helping you.
So it's almost like there are like dozens of moments that are kind of like flooding into my mind at the moment. And I'm probably not going to pick the most magical, the most like, oh whoa, that moments, but because they come up a lot. But some of the things that come to mind are like when we there'll be a gesture or something like that, and then we kind of like, instead of just ignoring that and focusing on the words, then maybe we we play with that gesture a little bit, right? Like, oh, like what's that? And then it's like, oh, what is that? Well, hang on, if it was something. And then there's this whole kind of new realm that like opens up when you start being playful and imaginative around that kind of thing. And when you don't gloss over coincidences or um, slips of the tongue, or like interesting words that come out that are kind of unexpected, like when you actually sort of glom onto those and like dig in a little bit. I feel like all kinds of insights have come from that, because we obviously have so much else going on aside from the words that we're editing as we speak, right?
Yep.
And so it feels like we're tapping into that well of all the other stuff that's going on.
Oh, I love that. And if we were coaching now, we'd get right into the well metaphor because and the tapping. So the tapping, what's the tapping like? And I'm thinking it's like this, and you're like, no, I'm tap dancing
Yeah,
next to a
right.
well. Where's the well? I'm thinking of the well in the Bible. I mean, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, we have so much to tap into.
Yeah.
Amazing. Um, all right. And how does that actually help you in your daily life, though? How does that kind of help you in your daily life or in your professional life as well?
It helps a lot. One of the things that's very, very practical, I think, is that it means I pay a lot of attention, right? I'm kind of not just coasting through, right? It's like you're just noticing more and contemplating. Does that mean something? Wonder what it means, right? Which is actually very, very useful. I mean, like I say, I'm going to go like take it to the extreme in practical, but I've been praised for my ability to take notes or retain information from meetings or something like that. And I'm not a wonderful note taker. If you saw my notes, you'd be appalled. But what I am good at is paying attention and really listening.
And I just want to invite a little bit of ordinary magic into here now. So you said, I pay a lot more attention. I pay attention. I spent the first 2 hours this morning developing the character Gillian and some of the other characters around. And one of the coded words is pay attention. Is he paying attention? You need to pay attention. And all the people who know, that means, doesn't mean watch your back. It means you're in danger.
Ordinary magic.
It is ordinary magic. So it's like, pay attention. You need to pay attention. Is he paying attention? And it's a coded way for people to pass information on without passing the information on. All right. So I'm going to do a quick fire round now. So where do you, but first of all, I just want to ask you, which of my offerings are you in at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm in, what are you calling it?
Simply Coaching.
Yeah. Simply Coaching. And also Grief Circle, Lighthouse Grief Circle, and the live version, the one where you join other people on a call. And we also just wrapped up the first round of Ordinary Magic, which is the writing workshop.
Mm-hmm. And the other place is clothes swaps as well, and style swaps.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Which is, again, that's like what we were talking about before. I feel like the clothes swap is so integrated into like the rhythms
community.
of my life that I didn't even clock it as one of your offerings.
All right, so now I'm gonna just say the word, and I want you to describe it in a short sentence or a couple of words. Okay. Simply Coaching.
Helpful support.
Grief Circle.
Magic. Community.
Ordinary Magic writing workshops.
Magic, creativity, and community.
Style swaps.
Oh, so fun. And again, community, helpful.
It's so funny that community came up in each of those, and I've actually closed down my community.
But you haven't.
I know, it's just evolving, but this is why, you offered, and, the invitation was taken for you to talk to me to help to get a better read on things, a really good read on things. So, Sarah, what do you think it takes to be a good coaching client?
So I think that you need to make a decision to trust. You know more about coaching than I'll ever know. And so why would I know where you're going with something? Right? It's just like, trust it. Like, trust that she knows what she's doing, right? If I made the decision to invest in Sarah Furuya coaching, well, now I'm going to hand myself over to the experience of Sarah Furuya coaching. I'm not going to waste that experience by monitoring it and second guessing it. I'm just going to get all the juice that I can out of it.
Specifically, who would be good for Sarah Furuya coaching?
Okay, so I think anyone who is willing to do that, to make the investment and then follow through on that investment. I think that if you feel like you would appreciate and benefit from having somebody who is in your corner to work through things with you and bring a different perspective, then the value is unmeasurable.
So I'd like to ask you the question, quick fire round, short answer about Sarah Furuya coaching.
Mhm. Sarah Furuya coaching to me is very practical and also magical, no bullshit, and powerful.
Sarah Furuya.
Same. But also, I think that for me, subversive. Sarah Furuya is subversive, interesting, and ever evolving.
Sarah, thank you very much. This has been enlightening, interesting, fun, and you are an absolutely wonderful coaching client to have on board. And for all the reasons that you mentioned there, that just willingness to get involved and the willingness to hand yourself over to the skill of the coach while you know that you are the expert of your life, and then to follow through on that. I'm put in mind of one of the phrases that you introduced me to, which is, it's a question actually, do you want a conversation or a debate? Because I want a conversation, and I very much feel like our coaching sessions are a conversation, a co-created conversation that really exemplifies the SFC, the Sarah Furuya creative, the Sarah Furuya coaching essence. And you've been absolutely integral in the building out of the most integral and most authentic and most genuine and most sincere parts of my practice. And I want to thank you for that, and my other clients, for really, really kind of bringing this to the fore and helping me to bring what I have to offer to the table, the skills, the education that I have, and then bring it all together in the kind of authentic and unique package that only I can bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I
From my
do
essence.
feel like it's a very it's that co-elevation
Yeah.
thing, right? Like it's not,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not two forces acting independently. When we get in that coaching space,
Yeah.
there's something about us coming together and working on things together that adds a whole new element.
Yeah, a kind of alchemy, but the
Yeah.
roles are very clear. The
Oh,
roles are
yeah.
very clear. You're client and I'm coach.
Yeah,
Very,
absolutely.
very clear until the hour.
Yeah.
And then we do the close out and then we have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's
Absolutely.
different. It's a switch that switches on
Oh,
and off.
it's totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. And that switch switches on and off. I would like to add this. I can remember one of your friends asking you and then reporting to me, how do you manage the friendship and the coaching relationship? And to me, it's so easy. It's like, one of the things I said was, is there money in my bank account? Which is very straightforward. It's
Yeah.
like, are you paying me? Because if you are, we're coaching. And if not, we're not.
Yeah, no, I've had that question because people know that we're friends in
Yeah.
real life,
Yeah.
and that I'm also your coaching client. And so, my simplest answer to that is that our coaching conversations are very different to our friendship conversations. It's just a completely different dynamic. And
Yeah.
when I show up in a coaching session, I show up as coachy and you show up as coach.
Yeah.
But if we meet on the beach for a swim, then that's different.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it was another client who'd said that as well. And she was like, well, what do and I've been very involved with her and her family as well. And she was like, what is it? And I said, are you paying me again? But for me, that's the simplest way to put it. It's like, that's very transactional. The line is very, very clear. And for somebody like me who's got a very visionary way with them, those kinds of boundaries are extremely important. But it's also, it's a switch, it's a switch. It's like, I'm going to use the example of a priest here, because I can remember when I went to confession and asked my priest, how do you know that Mrs. O'Malley's having an affair with Mr. Tanaka or whatever, and then you have to see them in the church? And he said to me, as the minute the door is closed on that session, I forget it. I wipe it from my memory. And it's a skill that priests learn at seminary. It's a skill.
Yeah.
And that was like a moment of absolute clarity for me, because I was like, oh, that's so interesting. It really gave me a professional line in a very kind of sacred space. And then, so that's one of the things that I do, is that I just forget. I try to forget the minute that we aren't talking. And then the other thing is that I'm bringing a set of skills to the table as well. And those skills are skills that people are paying for and that we contract around.
Yeah.
So if we're not in contract, it's actually ethically unsound for me to start offering that stuff, even though I might be able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing, you know, and the coach does turn off.
Yeah. And I think that maybe something that would help people understand is that if we're talking as friends and something comes up that might be like fodder for coaching in the future, then it might be that me or you flag that and say, maybe we save that one for our next coaching session, or
Right.
let's dig into that in coaching.
Yeah. And I even use that in groups as well. I mean, I think it's much clearer if you had a friend who was a doctor and you were sitting around the dinner table together, and you said, oh, I don't feel too well. They wouldn't reach for the stethoscope. It's
be like, book an appointment and let's get that looked into. Yeah,
exactly. But if they were having a heart attack, you might say something.
Of course.
Get out. All right then. So Sarah, thank you so much. That was really fruitful. And thank you very much to Sarah Bull, one of my long-term coaching clients. She has been through Simply Coaching for the last 2 years. She's been through 6 rounds of the FNJ February is the New January program, which was a group coaching session with one-to-one. She has been through the Grief Circle for the last 3 years. I think she's been through 4 rounds of the Grief Circle that I run with Gretchen Mura. She has been through 1 round of Ordinary Magic, the creative writing workshops that I run with poet Carolyn Hashimoto. And she comes regularly to my style swaps and is a very prominent member of that community too. And this is how my coaching and creative agency is built out. A combination of all these things and whatever's merging in the future. So Sarah, thank you very much for speaking to that. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.